All right, guys. So when we talk about General Industry 10 and General Industry 30, they're two completely different certifications. The General Industry 10 is typically for frontline workers, associates, and people who are looking for entry roles in industry, right? This is something where most plant managers won't even let you come on the plant floor unless you have some type of safety certification. We'll talk about the safety hour course in 30 here in a bit, but this is for foremen, superintendents, safety professionals, managers, and executive level. This is for more of that senior leadership role, which our program is geared towards these leaders and organizations. Each course respectively is 10 hours for the introduction and 30 hours for the 30-hour safety and health program. So we're going to talk about in this module, we're going to go through and talk about the purpose, OSHA's safety history, the purpose, workers' rights, employer responsibilities, OSHA standards, and OSHA regulations. But how does OSHA protect the safety and health of American workers? They develop standards. You should be writing these down. Developing standards, enforcing regulations, outreach, and training. And it allows you to form partnerships with industries. Develop standards, enforce regulations, outreach and training, form partnerships with industries. And this is how OSHA protects the safety and health of American workers. When you think about the jobs in the 1930s to 1960s, they were sparse. And even in today's world, people were still hunting for jobs. And so where this leads to is managers were not worried about, if somebody got hurt, they just move in the next person. So it really became a safety practice for leaders not to, the managers back then didn't focus on safety. They focused on getting the efficiency done and getting the job done. There's a video I show to my students about, workers falling off the Golden Gate Bridge construction and how that was a normal practice. And they say about 3 workers died each day. OSHA was established in 1970 to ensure safe and healthful working conditions. And think about that. Until that point, we did not have any type of safety in America. So President Nixon, one of the things that he did was he signed the OSH Act into effect in 1971.
Believe it or not, the largest...
A few purposes of OSHA: to promote safe and healthful working environments, to provide training and education, and setting the standards, and monitoring and enforcing those standards. It's all about record keeping and reporting. Later on, we'll talk about the OSHA 300 log and how that helps to protect and report injuries of workplace accidents in the industry. Protection of workers' rights, research and collaboration and cooperation and consultation with industries is also another purpose of OSHA. Few things to know right off the bat. I think it's really helpful. We've got the general the general duty clause. We've got the whistleblower acts. We have OSHA 300. We have inspections, and we have evaluation. Right. The general duty clause When we talk about the general duty clause, essentially, the general duty clause is a broad application. The general duty clause applies to all employers covered by the OSHA Act, regardless of industry or size, and covers hazards not specifically addressed by OSHA. You know, essentially, it's the catch-all rule. Employer responsibilities. Our employers are responsible for providing a workplace that is free from recognized hazards that are causing or likely to cause death or serious harm to employees. Essentially, those general duty clause is that catch-all that, you know, prevents an accident for occurring, because it basically says if there's an accident, the employer knows about it, they can be held accountable for it. You have the Whistleblower Protection Act. The Whistleblower Protection Act is basically saying someone that announces a workplace hazard, there not going to be repercussions. You know, when OSHA arrives, we can't punish a whistleblower, essentially. That Whistleblower Protection Act pretty much just covers the person that pulls that flag and was like, hey, you need to get this stuff fixed. Now remember, what if there isn't a code? You know, remember, that's the general duty clause. The OSHA 300 log is a form used by employers to record all serious work-related injuries and illnesses. It's part of OSHA's record-keeping regulations of the 29 CFR 1910. It helps identify and track and analyze incidents to improve the workplace. You can see in here you have the case number, the employee's name, the job title, the date of the injury, where the event occurred, and describe the injury or illness. One thing I want you guys to keep in mind, with that OSHA 300 log, you're required to have it on hand 5 or more years. There will be an immediate inspection done if there are 3 people injured or a death, right? These are the recording causes as well. You have something called the CFR 1910, Title 29, or the Code of Federal Regulations, Part 1910. Right? I might be working off of an older book, but there's not much that has been changed to the regulations since then. You can get a copy of this on Amazon if you really want to move into the safety professional realm. You can get a copy on Amazon of it. But I'll go through the standards with it. The Job Safety and Health OSHA page is required by law in all workspaces. You can visit OSHA.gov to find more and actually go through and find popular publications. You can break down certain aspects and get case studies as well. You know, when viewing those case studies, it's going to let us know what's the likelihood of an accident occurring, and if it's already occurred, what were the penalties and fines. Now, OSHA has inspections, and there's several different categories of those inspections. Number 1, you have an opening conference. 2, they'll present the credentials. 3, they'll have walk-around inspections. 4, they'll do and conduct employee interviews. 5, they'll have a document review. And 6, they'll have the closing conference with the penalties that they have been noticed or aware of during that inspection. So the opening conference is the first step. Second is presenting their credentials. Third, walking the inspector to the reported violation. And I usually tell people you want to walk them straight through it, and maybe not into other areas, but if you do, they, you know, if it's in their site, it's in their jurisdiction to report it. The fourth step is interviewing with the employees. Now, you're not allowed to prohibit or block any of that The last two steps are the document review and closing conference. So let's make sure we have these written down. Now remember, OSHA's job is the protection of American workers. You know, the workers' rights. They have a right to a safe workplace, access to information, training and guidance, and access to medical records. A right to file a complaint, protection from retaliation, involvement in OSHA inspections, and they can refuse unsafe work. Now, some employer responsibilities to provide a safe workplace, compliance with OSHA standards, and record keeping. Employer has access to information and not retaliating against employees. Remember, we talked about the Whistleblower Act earlier. They're to post OSHA notices and citations on equipment if equipment is broken down, and cooperate with OSHA inspectors. You know, one thing I always want to ask is OSHA been effective? Well, if we look at the safeties and numbers in 1971 and do a comparison, you know, we also have to take in consideration a number of factors such as technology. You know, technology's made things a lot safer as well. One thing I want you to look at the difference of number of reported injuries and resulting in days away from work. Number of reported injuries on the right. And you see that big comparison, but look how much we've grown as a population since then. You know, how do you think technology plays a factor in health and safety? So in this lesson, we covered the General Duty Clause, the Whistleblower Protection Act. We talked about the OSHA 300 log, and we talked about inspections and evaluation. See you in the next video.